Hello everybody, welcome to the Tuesday edition of Video Clips, and as always I'll start with a couple of quick announcements. The next teleconference event is on October 16th, Conversations with Dr. Pam, and we'll start with a discussion about aspirin. Is it effective? Is it safe? It's recommended by almost all cardiologists and doctors as a prophylactic type drug. Everybody should take it. Of course, I think there's a misperception that anything over the counter is safer and that sort of thing. So we'll talk about that for a few minutes, and then I'll answer your questions about anything you want to talk about after that. And then do not forget, we are just a month away, as of today, from our November conference, November 8th through 10th, and we have Dr. Colin Campbell joining us. We have Susan Levin from the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine, Laura Theodore, the Jazzy Vegetarian, Alan Goldhammer from True North, and Dr. Janice Stanger, who is the author of The Perfect Formula Diet. She's spoken at our conferences before. She's really a member favorite, so you don't want to miss this conference. Great food and all included in your ticket price, and gosh, if you're in driving distance of Columbus or live here, you gotta come, but even if you have to get on a plane, it is so worth it. So time to get registered. You can go to wellnessforum.com and see the flyer and download the registration form and get it into us right away. All right, I have two topics I want to cover, and we'll start with something aggravating, and then we'll go to something hopeful and inspirational. I try to sprinkle those things in here so we don't get so depressed about the way things go. But we'll start with talking about kids with ADD, and I am appalled at the number of kids we're medicating in this country. I don't think any of them should be medicated. And the drugs do work to the extent that some of these kids may fidget a little bit less and be less of a handful in school, but there are terrible side effects. The kids hate taking them. And long-term studies show that the kids who take these drugs do not end up better off as adults. I mean, at some point in time, you've got to get to the root of the problem. You can't drug people for the rest of their lives. Oh no, I forgot, we live in the United States. We actually do drug people for the rest of their lives here. But in any case, a recent study looked at behavioral interventions as compared to drug treatment. And in general, studies have shown that behavioral interventions are better. So the U.S. Agency for Healthcare Research and Quality did the study, and they compared interventions with preschoolers with symptoms, for preschoolers with symptoms of ADHD. And the interventions were parent behavioral training. The second one was combined home and school or home and daycare interventions, and then the third one was the use of Ritalin, still the leading drug to treat ADHD. And here's a news flash. The most effective form of intervention was parent behavioral training. Results for the home school or home daycare were kind of mixed. The results for Ritalin were not only inferior, but then you've got the side effects of the drugs. There is no negative side effect for parental intervention. That just works and nobody ends up worse off. Now, while there are exceptions to this rule, most children can be taught to focus, to pay attention in class, to stop fidgeting, and to do well in school. Kids can learn that focus is a choice, and they can learn through both discipline and a clear reward and consequence structure to make better choices, including the choice to focus. And it's a whole lot more work to do this than it is to drug up kids, but it's worth doing. It's better for kids in the long term. No negative side effects, as I mentioned before. And the other thing is better for the parents. If you get this family situation straightened around where kids know how to behave and know how to make better choices, life gets easier not only for this child and his or her future, but for the entire family. So having said that, I think we're still going to drug a lot of kids this year. Most people are not listening to this, and I get hate mail from people who are appalled that I suggest that there are people who shouldn't be medicated. They scream and holler at me through email in capital letters and say, you don't understand. If we didn't medicate our child, we couldn't live with him, or I benefited from medication. And of course, we'll cover that another day, but I've written extensively on the topic. You're not benefiting as much as you think you are, and you're hurting yourself in ways that you have not thought of. So anyway, enough of that. Now let's talk about something that I think is really inspirational. And I read an article about this. This is where I drew this material from. And at the very top of the article, this quote was there. It says, "When diet is wrong, medicine is of no use. When diet is correct, medicine is of no need." And I didn't say who to attribute it to, so I don't know who said it, but I really like it. So anyway, this was the lead into an article that covered an exciting new project that may be the beginning of a movement to improve hospital food. Now, I think good food should be served everywhere, but it has always astounded me that hospitals are the source of some of the worst, most health-destroying food on the planet. I mean, we should not be feeding sick people bad food, and it really sort of adds to the beginning or belief that I've established that hospitals have turned into terrible places for sick people. Well, things are getting better, at least at the Henry Ford Bloomfield Hospital, which opened a greenhouse and garden, one of the first of its kind in the United States. So according to the article, the facility is now growing 5 different types of kale, 23 types of heirloom tomatoes, and 5 types each of squash, eggplant, peppers, basil, and many other plant foods. And in addition to growing food for use in the hospital, the facility is big enough to have rooms to host events and educational classes and things for the community. Michelle Lutz is the manager of the facility, and she told althealthworks.com, that's where I got the article, that the idea came from a former CEO who had this crazy belief that hospitals should promote health. Oh my gosh, what if that caught on instead of just taking care of sick people? And he actually had as part of his initial vision for the hospital the idea for this greenhouse and garden. The hospital opened 3 years ago. From the very beginning, it was committed to doing things differently. They began buying produce from a lot of local farmers, one of whom was Michelle Lutz. That's how she got involved in this. And they also, from the very beginning, held camps and cooking classes for kids and tried to bring the community in. So the greenhouse and garden supply some food to the hospital. They also welcome people to just come in off the street and eat, and she says they do that every day. They have a farmer's market every week. Not all of the hospital food is produced in the greenhouse and garden, but since it started, the purchases of things like greens and fresh produce have dropped by about 50%. And the author of the article noted that in the dining area there was a salad bar and just lots of healthy, fresh produce around. And I haven't been in the hospital for quite a while, but I don't recall seeing that type of thing the last time I visited a dining facility in the hospital. So Lutz says that one of the issues is funding in terms of perpetuating this idea, expanding it to other areas. The hospital did get a large grant in order to do this, but she also acknowledges that it could have been done for less. And my gosh, you can buy produce from Food Burgers. You don't have to grow it yourself, so there's no reason why this couldn't change really quickly. So I think it's a good sign, and I'm hoping that every hospital administrator reads this article and gets inspired to maybe do something about hospital food. So we'll end on a high note today. So that's all for now. Have a great day. Pass this on to anybody who you think would enjoy watching it, and I will be back to you on Thursday.